I am your neurofabulous friend, late diagnosed AuDHD, and today I am here to talk about the week this week where I accidentally forgot to record a video. It is now Friday, the video is due tomorrow, and I sort of forgot that time existed because I fell down a hyperfocus rabbit hole. Lols. Writing my second book. So all of my free time ended up in a hyperfocus, and I forgot that I was supposed to record a video and that I do a video every Saturday. So now you get the hyperfocus. It's an info dump, really. So essentially, you know that moment when you sit down to just outline an idea, because I had an idea. And suddenly it's 3 days later, and essentially all the tabs I have are completely unhinged, and I've dismantled the entire organizational framework out of spite and research. Yeah, so like it's been that week. So, okay, I just to be clear, I work in health safety organization roles. I'm now an author, fancy, a researcher, and I speak on neurodivergent leadership and psychological safety. And I live this every single day in real organizational systems, not just theory. So, lols. So before we dive in, I just wanted to let you know, I've got the book and the links. We've got a whole bunch of cool stuff going on. Like, let's, just check out the links. There's freebies everywhere, like fun times. Now, if you're a professional who also wants practical kind of research-based insights, I've also got the quarterly research that I did last week, also just available for you in the links. Like, let's make it easy. So let's just talk for a second around what hyperfocus actually is. Let's clear it up. Hyperfocus isn't about working really hard, and it's not being super passionate. It's definitely not a personality trait. It's like there's a ton of research that shows that hyperfocus is a state of intense, sustained attention. It's common in ADHD and autistic individuals, particularly when the task aligns to an intrinsic motivation or a special interest. Right now, for me, that's ADHD and autism and AuDHD, lols. Studies published in quite a few psychology journals, Frontiers of Psychology, Journal of Attention Disorders, describes hyperfocus as a flow-like state, but with impaired time awareness, reduced sensitivity to external cues, and difficulty task switching, which is what I have had. Like, I have not been able to record a video this week. Literally took all the power to like rip myself off these pages to do something. Like, it's bonkers. So, which means to say, in summary, I lost track of time this week, and I don't mean metaphorically. I mean, literally, I forgot to go to the bathroom because I was focusing so heavily on this. I forgot to eat because I was focusing in the evenings so heavily on this. I wasn't even hungry because I was so focused on this. And I produced an uncomfortable amount of structured critique on personality frameworks before realizing it was midnight or early in the morning. Like, it's wild. So it's not a productivity hack. Just to be clear, this is not a productivity tool. It's a neurocognitive state, and it is the mark. Like, it is well presented for ADHD individuals. Now, it can look like productivity, sure, because I've written an entire second book in like 2 minutes. No, I have not. It's just unhinged thinking. But it does mean that I have the basis there to kind of start thinking about it. So if this is already sounding familiar, you've gone down a rabbit hole, I want you to pause for a second and click the link below. There's freebies, etc. Also, it would be great if you subscribe, because this conversation does not happen enough at senior levels. And I think sharing the conversation around would be really great. So here's what hyperfocus actually looked like for me this week. I started pulling apart personality frameworks like Myers-Briggs, DISC, color models, and values ranking systems, because they're everywhere in organizations. And as you know, I've just recently released my first book where I was talking about how, leadership is so traditionally focused that we forget like this entire group of individuals because of this traditional focus, and we're not thinking outside the box essentially. And then I started going into it a little bit deeper, and I discovered essentially there's like this cult-like stickiness of personality testing in the recruitment phase, in performance review phase, because I was trying to unpick why performance reviews feel so um, so I started pulling apart these things, and like one journal article I read ended up leading to 20, because they've got like, oh, read this. Yeah, if you found this interesting, you might find this interesting. I did find it interesting. And I read every single one of them and summarized them into what is now I'm considering, the book. So I then ended up cross-referencing organizational psychology, ethics, employment law, neurodiversity research, and suddenly it was no longer idea. It had quite a lot of structure, arguments, and too many receipts. So from the outside, this looks like exceptional output. From the inside, it is exhausting. It is the system around you doesn't even understand what's going on. And what I found really interesting, because, info dump, most organizations reward visible busyness and punish invisible cognitive labor. Hyperfocus produces insights, systems thinking, and innovation, but it doesn't follow neat time blocks or linear paths. And this is where that tension starts, which I find really interesting. So if you've ever been told you're too intense, too much, you need to slow down, this channel is for you. Welcome, 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 welcome. Subscribe, because we talk about how design work, we design work that actually fits to how our brains work. Also live, laugh, tax billionaires. So here is kind of where we kind of get like into the nitty gritty of it. When organizations misunderstand hyperfocus, they do one of two things. They either exploit it, which is notorious, or they suppress it, like don't go into your hyperfocus flow. Exploitation looks like relying on those neurodivergent staff to deliver absolute brilliance without boundaries until burnout hits. Suppression looks like rigid performance frameworks that punish depth, intensity, or nonlinear thinking. Neither is safe and neither is sustainable. So research from Deloitte and Harvard Business Review show that cognitive diversity drives innovation and problem solving, but only when the systems support that different energy pattern and doesn't force conformity. The book that's shaping up currently challenges the idea that personality frameworks create clarity or fit. In reality, they often flatten the complexity and reinforce bias and exclude neurodivergent ways of working under the guise of culture. Hyperfocus is not a flaw to manage. Let's just be very clear about that. It is a signal that someone is operating in their zone of contribution. Like they are in the zone and they are contributing, and we just need to channel that really well. The risk is not the hyperfocus. The risk is that organizations do not know how to work with it. So if this video resonated with you, I realized that it was a quick, short video. Actually, you know what? Before we get to the end of this video, I also wanted to say that also during this hyperfocus phase, I wanted to move. It's actually ridiculous. I feel like you are literally hearing just the unfiltered version of my absolute disaster of my life. So I wanted to move I use Google Docs, and you can do the little tabs in the Google Docs. Love them. And I wanted to move what I was using, because I was using a couple of different Google Docs with different tabs. I wanted to move them into something that I could see everything together on one page with like a calendar over the top. And I recently learned how to build apps, because not the hyperfocus. I just honestly I can't with my life. Anyway, so I learned how to build this app. And then I built this app that did what I wanted it to do. And now, like, I am so obsessed with this because I literally can do everything I want in one place. Look, let's just be very clear. This is not something that'll ever make it to market, because it is literally built for me. Like, I built it so that it makes my life easier. And I am just so in love with it, though there's a couple of flaws and like it's super janky, but you know what? I built it. It works for me. So I've been like using that as well, and it's been like, so that's what's taken up my week this week. I should have recorded a video when I had time, like last week. I did not, and then bibbity bobbity hyperfocus. Whoops. Honestly, send me off to the meatworks. Send me to the meatworks. If this if this video resonated with you today, download the freebies below. Please hit subscribe and share and like and comment. Like, I want to hear your unhinged stuff as we head into like the festive season, because I think that's where I'm at. Is I'm just like, we're in the festive season now. Like, let's just rip the band-aid and go for gold. Like, I don't even know where. Anyway, I'm your neuro fabulous friend, and I'm here. I'll be here next week. I will have time if I don't get in. If I don't, like, if I can rip myself away from the fascination that is personality testing. If I can rip myself away, there will be a video next week. We'll see what it's about. It could be about personality testing. Let's be very honest. Anywho, I'll see you in the next video.